Hello everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Whitney, and today we're going to be talking about the various things that I considered when searching for law schools. So let me tell you, I've been doing this a lot. It actually kind of was a little bit fun to me because I was like, ooh, where's this law school? What are they offering? Where's this location? What's in that location? You know what I'm saying? So a lot of things that I considered were, well, let me get into it, right? Like, first off, I want to tell you guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your post notifications so you never miss when I post a new video. Here on this platform, I give you a lot of lifestyle videos. I talk about the various things that happen in my life, the different mistakes that I've made, so that way in turn, you will not make the same mistakes. I give you advice on a lot of things. You can definitely send whatever problems you're going through to my email. I come on this platform basically to share my story with you and to help everyone and anyone, even if it is just one person. So also on this platform, I do talk about various law things. I talk about what I learned while being in college, how I was below a lot of the median scores and I'm still doing well in life. So if that interests you, don't forget, like I said, to subscribe. And also, if you want to, just leave a comment down below. I love engaging with you guys. So let's get right on into this video. So I do want to mention that I very much wrote this down because there was a lot of things that I considered, but I feel like the main things, I have 5 main things that I think people should consider when they're looking at various law schools or just postgraduate schools, right? That's going to require you to stay there for a minute. So if you're looking at med school, or if you're looking at like, what's that thing called? Dentist school, or what's that thing? That's med school, but what's that thing called where you're a doctor's assistant? You're a physician's assistant. Duh. If you're looking at schools like that, right? Like if you're just looking at various schools that's going to require you to be somewhere for a long time, I think that these are a lot of things that you should consider. But more specifically to me, this is what I considered for law school, because where I go to law school, I do kind of want to stay in that like surrounding area, right? So for one, I'm looking down at my phone. The first thing that I considered was, do they provide the greatest investment for me? Will this be a great investment in myself and what I'm trying to procure, right? So that's the number one thing that I feel like everybody should consider, because you shouldn't just go to a school that's just going to give you the degree. Given at the end of the day, everyone has the same degrees, but does that degree provide opportunities? Does that degree actually help you learn the law? Is that degree notable? Are people going to see that degree and think, okay, wow, you went to a very nice school? Are people, does your school have a reputation? You know what I'm saying? You're paying a lot of money to learn this knowledge. No matter where you go, if it's the last school, like the last ranked school out there, or the #1 school ranked out there, you're going to be paying a lot of money for this education, regardless on if you got a scholarship, right? It's going to be coming out your pocket when you're living somewhere, etc. You're spending money and you're investing in your knowledge. So the #1 thing that you have to consider is, how much is this going to invest in my knowledge? How well can I be an attorney by going to this school? Will this school provide me the best knowledge that I can possibly obtain? If that is a yes, then go for it. You know what I'm saying? Add that to your list, because that's definitely what I considered. A lot of things that I considered was a part of, investing in myself is the things that, what I want to practice in law. So I want to make sure that the school is good on #1, trial advocacy, because that's a broad subject. You know what I'm saying? Where you're kind of, trial advocacy is basically litigating, being in court, doing well when you're standing in front of a judge, and that's can literally be in every single field of law. You know what I'm saying? So let me look up a definition of trial advocacy so I can make it more specific. Trial advocacy. So trial advocacy is the branch of knowledge concerned with making attorneys and other advocates more effective in trial proceedings. Trial advocacy is taught in primary, secondary, and undergraduate schools, usually associated with mock trial elective. So basically, I was looking at places that were really well suited for trial advocacy. So one of the schools that I was looking at was Temple Beasley School of Law, right? And they're #1 in trial advocacy. Are they #1 in trial advocacy? Their trial advocacy program is ranked really high. I think it's #1, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure it's #1. But that's one of the schools that I was looking at, because one thing that I have to be really equipped in is building very effective arguments and being a great arguer. because if I'm trying to help people, I can't slack. I can't not know that knowledge. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing that I really considered while I was, looking for these law schools. So number 2, the second thing that I considered while looking for law schools, would I be able to meet genuine people here, right? So of course, law school in general, let me just put this as a disclaimer. These are things that I considered while looking at various law schools. And this is something that you too can consider while you're looking at these law schools. You don't have to consider these, but I think it's very valuable for you to do so. So would I be able to meet genuine, honest people here, right? So I want to build long-lasting relationships. Even if it is just 2 people at these schools, I want to build long-lasting friendships, relationships, etc. So, and I also want to connect with the faculty. So I don't want to go to an extremely competitive, really large school that has like 150 students in one class and the teacher just knows you by a number, not by your name. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be in a school or in a program like that. I want to make lasting bonds. I want to be a part of a community. I want to be somebody. I want someone to say, oh, Whitney, I know who that is. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be, it doesn't even have to be small knit, but I don't want it to be super large, and I do want to be a part of something that's bigger than myself. So when I make these long-lasting bonds, I don't want these people to be, how do I want to say this? I don't want to be a part of a community that's highly competitive and all they think about is themselves, right? Like, I don't want to be screwed over in the process of gaining my degree. So, which is why I'm looking at various HBCUs. I've never been to an HBCU. I've pretty much, in a lot of my classes, from the time that I moved to Alabama to college, I was pretty much like the only black girl in a lot of situations. I'm just kind of like, I no longer want to be put in that situation. And I'm not saying, oh, that automatically means that it's going to be a competitive atmosphere and I'm not going to make long-lasting bonds with people who don't look like me, because that's false. I have made long-lasting bonds with people who don't look like me. However, I believe that HBCUs will put me better equipped to help people who do look like me, right? So I can help out my community of people, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm looking at a lot of HBCUs, so that way I can build those bonds, I can make those long-lasting networks, and not even just for a career-wise, just personal-wise, having a family that I can go to. That's something that you might want to consider when you're looking at different law schools. Who wants to go through this alone? You know what I'm saying? Moving on. Number 3, of course, this probably should be, no, I don't agree. I don't think this should be number 1. I, of course, considered my GPA and my LSAT score. So I just took the LSAT again and I'm waiting back on my score. Pray to God that it is where I need it to be. But I know for a fact that I've definitely increased on that score. I know that for a fact I've definitely increased. So, and that sounds mad confident. I'm telling you, it's due to prayer and practice. That's really what I've done. I've prayed a lot and I've been relatively disciplined in the studying process, and I think I did really well. So beside that, anyways, so I have to consider my GPA and my LSAT score, because if my GPA is not, the median at some schools, even though they look at your application holistically, if you don't fit the part, you're not going to get in. Like, there's going to have to be something that sets you aside from, your scores, right? So I had to consider my score because my undergraduate GPA is a 2.7. My first year of undergrad did not go well, and it was so hard to bring it up to a 2.7, right? And my LSAT score before, when I took it twice before, it was a 140 both times. So I definitely took the LSAT again because I couldn't get into anywhere with a 140. So I was like, okay, so I definitely have to consider. Also, keep in mind, I'm in an era, I'm trying to get into law school during the COVID season. You know what I'm saying? So it also, that played into it as well, I'm pretty sure. But regardless, I had low scores. So schools were looking at me like, I don't think you're going to do well. And so I don't think that the score makes the student. I think the student is, far better than their score. And I know that I'm going to do exceptionally well in school, but regardless of that, I had to be realistic with what I'm working with. And so I have to take it a step further. I have no problem with taking things a step further and being like, this is what I bring to the table. Don't look at that. Look at me. But at the end of the day, the schools will look at that. So you have to play their game basically. So if they're looking for a 3.3 as their low that they've accepted into their school, and I have a 2.7, guess what? I'm going to try to beef up my LSAT score to counteract that. And even if I can't beef up my LSAT score, I'm going to write a hell of an essay explaining why that happened like that. Or I'm going to ask for an interview. I'm going to do something else. You know what I'm saying? So I keep on saying, you know what I'm saying, but regardless of that, I'm going to try to advocate for me as much as possible. And the first step to do that is I have to be realistic with the GPA and the LSAT score. I can't apply to Yale with a 140 and a 2.7. I just can't. Like, just being realistic, I can't. I just can't. You know, for a second I was just like, well, but no, really and truly, you can't. And so I want you to be realistic with what schools will allow your score. And also, by being realistic, you can also tell whether or not you can get a scholarship. So if you are above the median or even above their high at a certain law school that you're looking at, full ride, here we go. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, looking at the various things that they offer, you can seriously be going through law school with no debt or very minimal debt. So that's one thing that I considered where it comes to GPA and LSAT score, because not only is it an investment in myself, it could also be a scholarship opportunity for me. It could also be a very good school that's close knit that would accept my marginalized scores. Like, things like that. Like, I can have a high advantage when I pay attention to what they're looking for. Because at the end of the day, those are the two main things that law schools are looking for. So you have to consider your GPA and your LSAT score. That's just it. It is what it is. We can't, step aside from that. Number 4. So I really took into consideration the location of the law school. So I think this is very important because you have to really consider where you want to be in this experience, because you're going to be there for 3 years. So you're going to have to want to look at the various opportunities that are in your location. Do you want to stay in that location even after law school? Like, are you going to like this area while you're going through the 3 years of being in this hell? Like, to make things a lot easier on you, why don't you choose a place that to make things a lot easier on you, why don't you choose a place that you'll actually enjoy, to where you can kind of de-stress, right? So a lot of the places that I'm looking at is close to family in a sense. Like, the furthest away that they are from my family is Philly is 2 hours. So the longest away that I have from my family is 2 hours, right? So I looked at Philly because my family that I don't want to be away from is in New York, right? Philly's 2 hours. The other school I'm looking at is about an hour. The other school that I'm looking at is in the city, so that's down the street. Like, I don't remember what Howard, DC, my bad. So that one, my bad, that one's like 4 hours away. So the furthest away that I am from them is 4 hours, and that's drivable distance. So that's no problem to me. But the reason why I think you should consider your location is because, like I said, right, do you want to be there for the next 3 years? Do you want to be close to family? Do you want to be further away from family? Because that can also be a stipulation as well. And also look at the various opportunities that are offered in your location, right? Philly is an awesome place to be for an attorney. The city is an awesome place to be for an attorney. Connecticut is an awesome place to be for an attorney, and that's exactly where I'm trying to go. And this also leads to my next point, which is opportunities for jobs. So say you got an internship while you're in school, and you got a job offer while you're in school, or not while you're in school, but once you graduated. And after this job offer, you're working there for like 5-7 years, and you kind of want a career change, or you kind of want, to start your own law firm. Is this location the optimal place to start your law firm, for one? And also, can you find a different job in your area, or are you going to have to move? Personally, I think that if you're going to have to move, it would kind of be, I don't want to say a waste of time, but it's just kind of defeats the purpose of choosing your law school, because I don't know if I want to say that, because you can go wherever you want to go. That's not fair for me to say, it defeats the purpose. But I'm saying, like, it will make life a lot easier if you look at your surrounding areas and say, hey, if I no longer want to work at this law firm, can I go to Apple? Can I work at Best Buy? Because they need attorneys. You could literally, as an attorney, you could literally work anywhere, but you have to work at their corporate space. And not every city has a corporate space of a large company, or just of a company in general. Does that make sense? So a lot of things that you should consider are the opportunities for your job fields. I think for an attorney, you can find a job anywhere. But if you're concerned about your salary, if you're concerned about, you know, the various things that you want to get into, your field, does your town offer that for you? If it doesn't, you probably should choose another space. If it does, then you're doing a hell of a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are some things that I think need to be considered where you want to stay, because you're also learning the law in that state. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so if I stay in Philly, I'm learning the law of Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's the same as the law in New York, in Alabama, in California, which it probably isn't, you know? And so when I pass the bar, what if I meet the criteria? Like, what if my score passes, this is just hypothetical, what if my score passes Pennsylvania but it doesn't pass New York? Now I can't practice in New York, but I've always wanted to live there. What? That doesn't make sense. Choose where you want to stay for a very long time. Another thing that I should probably mention is, if you do want to live in this location for a very long time, you should also consider where you're going to live if you want to live there for a long time, and also your kids. So for me, I'm looking at living in Stamford, Connecticut for like the rest of my life. You know, it's down the street from my family. It's like 30 minutes, not even like from my family is down the street, and I could live in the suburbs. Like, I was raised in the suburbs. I want to raise my kids in the suburbs. I think it's a very beautiful area to live in. And being in the north, it's a lot more diverse than some other suburbs that I've been accustomed to, if that makes sense. So I look at the diversity in the area. Are my kids going to be comfortable? Because we're minorities, and so not a lot of keeping it a buck, not a lot of minorities live in the suburbs. So I want to go to a suburb area where it has a lot of minorities, because that's where I grew up. Even though it was predominantly white, you couldn't really tell a difference because there were so many different people from different areas. Like, some of the white people that I knew were from Russia. Like, there's so many diverse cultures that's what I considered while I was looking at various law schools, because I want that culture. I want my kids to know that well, I can't say that, but they're at least, they know for sure that they're West Indian. I want them to embrace their Haitian culture. I want them to embrace their Black culture. I want them to embrace culture in general. And I don't want to keep them small-minded in one spot. Like, I want them to be able to be open-minded. And so I know that's very, like, deep into what, you know, a law school is. It's just like, why don't you just look at the opportunities for job and networking? Look at that as well, but also look into your future and say, hey, can I really make a living here? Can I really spend 30 plus years over here? If you can't, it's okay if you can't, because you can also just go to school there, and they have opportunities for you to live somewhere else, for you to practice abroad. You know what I'm saying? So that's just one thing that I considered. These are 5 things that I considered while looking at various law schools. If this has helped you a lot, don't forget to leave a comment down below. Also, I do want to mention, if you do have, I want to say, law school trouble, or some advice that you want to give, or some advice that you need for your law school journey, hit it in my email, okay? We're going through this process together. I can tell you various things that I've come across, what I've learned throughout my process, and maybe that will help you out in return. So the point of a writer's scope is what it's called. A point of a writer's scope is so that way I can be able to help anyone and everyone, even if it is just one person. So on a writer's scope, there is a playlist here on my channel. We talk about various relationships. We talk about things that don't make sense, right? Like, why is my man doing this? You feel what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people are just like, I am confused. Can you help me out? And so with that being said, I would love to help you guys out. Don't forget to follow me on all my social medias. It would be down in the description box below and pop up on the screen. Thank you guys for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time.